let me start with Donald Trump and his new social media post looking fairly agitated with seeing India, China, Russia on one stage. The West here clearly seem to be losing sleep over India's growing clout and Donald Trump's latest outburst only proving it. The show of strength at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, India alongside Russia and China, has really rattled Washington clearly. On Truth Social, Trump has fumed, saying, "Looks like we've lost India and Russia to deepest, darkest China. May they have a long and prosperous future together." Now, this is his sharpest admission yet of how the SCO trio is shifting global power equations, chipping away at America's influence. From energy to security, New Delhi, Moscow and Beijing are finding common ground, often clashing with Washington on Ukraine and trade. For decades, in fact, the United States propped up India as counterweight to China. But ties have soared fast. Since returning to office, Trump has slapped a combined 50% tariff on Indian goods, one of the steepest ever against U.S. partner. Well, any U.S. partner has not faced the kind of tariffs that India has received, but India seems to be the real evil to Donald Trump. Wonder why? The MEA has stayed measured, though, declining to comment on Trump's rant, while rejecting ex-Trump aide Navarro's claim about Brahmin profiteering as inaccurate and misleading. So the MEA has basically responded to Navarro. Let's listen in.
Regarding the post, I have no comments to offer on this post at this point. Regarding the post, I have no comments to offer on this post at this point.
Words underscore one thing: India's global rise is impossible to ignore, and it's reshaping the West strategic playbook. Well, let me quickly bring in our panelist here on board. In fact, as we know, it is interesting to see that Donald Trump at this point not very happy with India, Russia, China coming together. So does this mean that Donald Trump is going to come back to reworking equations with India? Let me bring in Ambassador Manju Seth, former Indian diplomat, joining us. Thank you, Ambassador Manju, for speaking to me right here on News 9. We're looking at Donald Trump making a comment which was not unexpected entirely, because we see the West losing sleep over India, Russia, China on one stage. And here you have suddenly, after making India look like the evil all along, Trump now making China look like the evil. Saying that now India and Russia. In fact, Trump has a problem with India and Russia, but now the tables have turned, saying that look at India and Russia running towards China, the real evil China. So the kind of mind games and the wordplay Trump is indulging in, what do you make of it?
Yeah, it's absolutely very difficult to fathom what's happening, and of course, partly it is because the fact is that these three countries and the three leaders were seen together, and I think indirectly sending a message to the US: look, we have options, and we can work together if you don't want to work with us. So that was, of course, there, but it has, of course, as you rightly said, clearly upset the president, President Trump, and I think he is in great. He and his advisors, with the kind of rhetoric, the kind of statements coming out from Washington, unprecedented and unfathomable. It's difficult to fathom, unfathomable. And the way he has gone on and on now, saying Trump, President Trump is saying have we lost India and Russia to the evil, as you very rightly said, to evil China. So now China is the evil. So there seems to be a lot of inconsistency in what he's constantly saying. But I think at the center of all what has been happening in the last few weeks, India is the biggest, villain, should I say, in all this. They seem to be targeting India left, right, and center. And in an attempt, I believe, to make India do what the US wants. But India itself has to hedge its bets. It has to hedge its options. We cannot just be browbeaten like this. And we had no option. And I think in some measure, President Trump and his team have been responsible for the fact that India has moved towards, attending the SCO was on the table, but this closeness and this extra bonhomie that we saw between the three leaders, President Xi Jinping, President Putin,
Yeah.
and Indian Prime Minister, I think, is
Has it really unsettled the US? Has this really unsettled the US?
it has unsettled them. But at the same time, they're not backing off. You can see that one after the other, the statements are not stopping, and advisors or directly, or he himself directly, they're constantly on with this barrage of negative, sort of use and undiplomatic language. I think between countries, I think that's not the norm of using this
Yeah.
kind of language.
Yeah.
You're big enemies, and even today they've said that now one of the I think ex-advisors has said that now PM Modi and President Trump's friendship has also gone. Yes, to some measure it would go, but at the same time, India cannot afford to completely
Yeah, in fact,
break.
that precisely was what I was to ask you on if India now edging towards Russia and China. Do you believe that we're risking losing strategic space with the United States, or with the signaling that we're seeing from Trump, even if it is a rant in the form of a rant? Because anyway, Trump has redefined what diplomatic language means altogether. But with Trump constantly, putting out messages, his team members saying things, ugly things about India and India's equation with Russia or China, do you believe this is US trying to kind of signal that they want to recalibrate?
It is an indirect signal, but I don't think they will make the first move. I don't think so, because I think in this case, President Trump is extremely upset that unlike other countries, India has not rushed to say that he is the peacemaker and deserves a Nobel Prize, et cetera, et cetera. We haven't done that. So I think that has riled him up a bit. And also the fact that we kept contradicting when he claimed credit for the peace or for the end of the 4-day conflict with Pakistan. So I think he is a bit riled. He's a bit upset about that because he didn't expect that India would hold out. Because all other countries, and he has mentioned that even for the trade and other deals with other countries, saying, how Indonesia came and got it done, how so-and-so came and how so-and-so came, only India has not come. India should have come. So, he's trying to browbeat India, and that is not going to work out. And he has, I think, it's as I said, very difficult to fathom what exactly he's achieving, or it's only ego. It looks like an ego kind of, ego at the top. And I think that is not a very positive thing in international relations. And he will not take the first step, but I think I believe there should be back channel talks, and there should be some resetting of the ties, because it's a very important relationship for us. US is an important partnership for us, and we are also important for the US. I think it's a mutually important relationship, and we should try and get it back, at least in all the other sectors. Maybe trade, I don't know if we will get back to getting any kind of normalcy in the near future, but in the going ahead we might. But right now, all our other partnerships should be focused on. Nabeen.
I do want to ask you though, in fact, we hear there's a latest statement coming from the US Commerce Secretary, Howard Lutnick, who's basically said and termed India as a vowel between Russia and China, saying that New Delhi will be at the negotiation table and will try to make a deal with Donald Trump in a couple of months, suggesting that India will be the one making the first move, trying to recalibrate.
I think that's what they want. And maybe because it is, we will have to see how best to make it work, because it is in India's interest to see that some kind of, bridges are built again with the Trump administration. But how we do it and how it will pan out remains to be seen. But I think it is important for both countries to be working together, both largest and oldest democracies. So I think we have many other common convergences, common interests. And and of course, the trust has been broken a bit. But again, with China, we've had many incidents of the trust being broken. So there has been a history of not being sure where we stand with China, but only with Russia overall, we've had a very stable and trustful, should I say, trusted relationship. But whether with China coming into the picture, we are not sure how it will pan out. But I think with Russia as the only country with which we can have some certainty, so far. But with China, we haven't always had a very even relationship. And now with in the US also, if you see over the years, there has been an up and down in the relationship. And maybe this is one more down, but we will come out of it, I'm sure. But yes, how soon remains to be seen. And I think there will be back channel talks and there will be some kind of
No, but
rapprochement.
a final word, Ms. Manju. For the amount that United States makes it look like as if India is going to be really taking the blow, we're not denying it. We are going to be hurt or at least are going to have a heavier blow in compared to the US because we exported more to the United States and in US sent hardly much here because they claim tariffs was really high in India. But that said, don't you believe that the US markets also will struggle by fully cutting out or by imposing tariffs like this? India completely now coming to a grinding halt in terms of exports to the US. In fact, there are calls for US goods to be boycotted here in India. So, US pretending to not be affected at all by this 50% tariff on India, just India is going to be bearing the brunt. Do you see that being a reality as well?
Absolutely. It's not that, the US will not bear the brunt. They will also have some degree of hardship. It will hurt them. And the common people there are already feeling the brunt of all this that is happening. Yeah. Yes, our SMEs are also facing the brunt. They're facing this, tariff hurt, so to speak. But also, if you see the fact that the other outside, things outside the trade thing, students, less students going there, who contributed huge amounts of money to the US exchequer, to the universities. And also now that they're saying that they will, cut down other visas, H-1B visas, which are also huge contributors to the US economy. So I think and the tourists, number of tourists who will travel, and the HNIs who have invested there. So I think there are, and if all this carries on, maybe there will be some, people might rethink about studying in the US, about investing in the US. And because he's sort of gone on being a little arbitrary in some way.
That's already happening, yeah.
So I think all that will also affect the US. And besides this, of course,
and whatever said,
yeah. So that's why that's not making an immediate impact. But yes, all the other items of
it looks so misplaced. More than anything, more than anything, the fact that Trump imposing 50% on India and the one country that they call evil, China, they've imposed 30% on China. So this looks more to do with a personal ego being bruised for India not acknowledging so-called Trump's mediation in the India-Pakistan conflict. It appears clearly to be that. And that's what I think, that's the trust deficit that now India in US has. And Indians now reacting to it, if not for anything. We are resilient enough to bounce back, but a long-term relationship with the United States, not sure how far will India be able to bring back that bonhomie yet again that we had so far. But well, we're hoping for tariffs to be quashed and hope things get better soon, because at the end of it, Indian economy is a priority. But Ambassador Manju, thank you very much for joining us and sharing your thoughts there.